Welcome to episode 7 of InProgress. Two of my very good friends, Caleb and Karen.
Hello.
Woo!
All right. Why don't you just tell the good people a couple of sentences about yourself just to get things started?
I am back again, number 2.
Yeah.
I'm 25. My name's Caleb. And
Hasn't aged since the last episode. Important note.
No, I haven't. No. Missed it. Otherwise, I've been at the Rocks for a little while now, about 7 years. But otherwise, been in and around church for most of my life.
My name is Karen. I'm 24. I was at the Rocks for about 6 years until I had to leave, but now I'm back. But then I'm going to leave again. But it's great. I'm still part of the Rocks. I refuse to not be part of it.
So Karen actually lives in Jakarta,
I do.
works for a Perth-based company.
Yeah.
Are you still working for the Perth-based company?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Working from home.
Yeah.
So it's nice.
So Karen and Caleb are they're genuinely very good friends of mine. We traveled together, in fact.
Oh,
We did.
Atlanta.
We went to Atlanta.
Fun.
You guys came along with my family, and my family came along with you guys, but we had a great time. So we're going to talk about an important topic today. I think it's important, obviously, because I'm the one that wrote the podcast. We're going to talk about church. Okay, I want to start with some icebreakers. Okay, this one's a bit weird, but if church was a food, what food would it be and why?
I went with a cuisine. I say Chinese food because it can be fantastic, and then some places are met.
You've had some sketchy Chinese food in your life?
Yeah.
Okay.
But that's like all cuisines, though.
Yeah, why
but
you
I
gotta-
feel like
Why you got to pick on Chinese, man?
I don't know. Just don't hate on my experiences, please.
It's yours. It's my story. Oh, this is gonna be fun.
I could not choose a cuisine or a dish. I thought of a potluck because everyone's like different. They would bring different things. But it's such a cringe answer.
You're so-
But you know
you're
what
so
I mean, guys.
churchy. So churchy.
Wow, that's profound. Fantastic.
so.
Potluck.
Yeah.
What cuisine would it be for me? Did I say what food would it be?
Food.
What kind of meal would it be?
Mm.
Oh, it's got to be breakfast.
Mm.
It's got to be breakfast.
Why breakfast?
Most important meal of the day.
Okay.
But a lot of people skip breakfast.
Oh.
Maybe that's the
Now the man gets it. Now the man gets it. You see? Eh?
Okay.
All right, what about this one? This is actually fun. This is weird. What's the weirdest thing you've ever witnessed at a church? This is actually fun because you've grown up in church. You grew up in church?
I did.
Yeah.
But I couldn't answer this one. I couldn't think of any.
You couldn't think of any?
Like, it's not weird. It's just intense.
Okay. Do you want to share it, or do you feel like?
Maybe not. Maybe you go first, and I'll see, and I'll gauge if I should share mine or not.
Okay.
I can't say I can think of too many experiences. I guess it depends what you're used to. Depends on how weird it is.
Mhm.
I think trying out and being around at different churches and it can be pretty full on, as you said. Like I don't know, some of the quite profound spiritual encounters can be pretty full on and weird. But if you're going down the weird
by like
category,
if you like never experienced before, you're like, wow,
Oh.
this is different to a
Yeah.
normal
Yeah.
Saturday.
Yeah.
oh, this person just passed out in front of me, and
Yeah.
they sort of caught him.
Yeah.
Otherwise, weird. I can't say I can put an experience on it, but I just remember growing up, and I was just like, "Oh, church people are weird."
Just in general.
Just
The whole
general
population.
vibes. A lot of sheltered people. I would have
Interesting.
said when growing up.
Yeah.
Now I guess I'm the sheltered person, but I would say a lot of people that I always found behaviors was always interesting. But in a church setting, you get away with it because people love you for it, whereas outside. So I always found people were always, at least growing up, a lot of eclectic people
Interesting.
around church.
Very interesting.
Do you have one?
Do I have a weird one?
Mm-hmm.
Nah, not really. I mean, like, I think it would be the same as Caleb. Like weird people, probably more than anything. Which is kind of like, that's kind of comes with it. It's like, come as you are. It's like, all right, I will. It's like, oh, you really came as you are. Well, welcome.
I'm so glad you're here.
Yeah. It's like, great.
It's a lot.
It's like, oh, damn, they actually believed it. It's like, that's crazy. It's cool. But you're like, there's some strange people here. I think it's one of our guys about Darva said the church often doesn't attract like the A grader. It's kind of the people that are on the down and out. It's like, I've got no hope left. I guess I'll try church. You're like, oh, wow, there's a profound mystery here where the God of the universe put on a body. This is very hopeful. I'm going to align my life to this. And you're like, yeah, but you're still kind of weird. Now you're just even more weird because you believe like a real guy was raised from the dead to atone for the sins of the world. It's pretty weird.
It is. I guess when you grow up in church, you kind of don't think about it as much.
No, yeah. Which I think for me, because I didn't grow up in church, like church people were always kind of a bit weird. The difficulty for me was Kira, who you guys know. Well, she met Jesus when she was like 15. So then she was a church person. So then I was like, well, I'll go to church to like trick her into thinking that I'm a Christian. So then we can get together. Because she basically was like, no, I'm not dating you unless you're Christian. But, the Lord had other plans.
Here we are.
That's when Alistair started becoming weird. He was like, oh,
That's
sign me up for the weirdos.
I want to be weird. I want to be weird too. Okay, what about this one? If you could create a church mascot for the Rocks, what would it be?
I have another lame answer. Do you
Come
wanna
on,
go
tell it.
No, you have to go.
Obviously, it's going to be a pile of rocks.
Oh, that is so lame.
Right?
You're horrendous.
But like the
Wow.
rocks would be different
What are
colors.
the
Like
rocks?
it's not just gray. It has to be like different colored rocks.
Why you got to point at me?
Because
when you
rocks
say
are
not just
normal.
gray?
Because you're wearing a gray fit, and I like the fit. But
Wow, okay,
rocks are normally
exposed.
gray. But yeah, it's so lame. You go, please.
I was thinking, well, I couldn't think of like the far answer. I think it has to be like completely random, or like I think of like footy mascots. If you think of like, it would probably be like the Saints mascot. Unfortunately, it's pretty lame as well, but which is just a person in a footy jersey, really.
Like PD in a footy jersey.
No, that's pretty lame. Nah, it's got to be like a little bit too big. The head's a bit too big.
Like
the
a
head's
caricature.
Yeah, absolutely. Or maybe we could be the Lions, like Brisbane Lions a little bit. So we have a lion mascot.
I was definitely leaning more the Karen way. I was in
Thank
my
you.
head, I'm like Geodude or Onyx from like Pokemon.
Oh, that's really good.
Like, how cool would that be if we got like people to stand on each other's shoulders in a giant Onyx costume and like walk around the foyer?
Or that's I
See,
don't think
church
that-
people are weird.
Yeah.
Who thinks of
No, the
these things?
question though. The question. It's like a trap. Like,
Or we could go down like, is this slightly heretic? Maybe, but like get like a wizard, like because like a Harry Potter based thing,
Okay.
and then we're saying, "Whoa, miracle,
oh my
Expelliarmus."
Oh, no, that's so lame. That's lamer than my rocks idea.
Yeah.
I mean, you're gonna have 3 rocks on the floor.
No, not 3. Like maybe like 15.
Oh, okay, stacking rocks.
15 specifically. Why wouldn't you go with 7 or 12, which
I
are the
don't know, like a
two common
mountain of-
biblical numbers?
A mountain of rocks. Can you envision it with me?
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Okay,
Anyways.
this is. I said this was going to be a loose one. All right, let's talk a little bit more serious. Okay, a little bit more serious. Has there been a time in your church experience where you have kind of like walked away from church? You're like, that's it, I'm done.
I can't say I've got to the point of I'm done, but I think I had started going through those mental sort of rhythms of, well, maybe not rhythms, but mental sort of process of being like, "Ugh, what is the point of all this? Am I like, can I be bothered keeping on doing this? Like at the time it was a bit chorey like, and I was struggling with a lot of questions that I didn't like the answers for. And then it felt very rule based at the time for me. And I think at that point, then I was definitely at a point where I was like, I'm not sure. Is this something that I want to commit my life to? Is this something that I sort of wanted to keep following along?
When you say that, commit your life to, do you mean commit your life specifically to church or to like God in general?
I guess it becomes God in general, And then I guess if you extend it towards the church sort of building and sort of process is, I guess I was leading at the time in young adults at that point already, but I hadn't actually considered leaving that, surprisingly.
Mm.
I think part of me was holding on still, that I was like, well, although I'm considering like, throwing the towel in, that was the bit that was still sort of holding me in, sort of thing. It sort of allowed me to go through and struggle outside, but also hold on to it. So I actually found that serving in that point actually was super helpful for me, because it created a space where I knew I was going to be at. So even when I didn't want to, I was there already, and that was actually the thing that pulled me through ultimately.
Yeah, strange paradox that, isn't it?
No,
Like your
absolutely.
commitment to serve someone else ends up being something that serves you.
Oh, 100%. Yeah, it was. And that's the thing. Yeah, people at that time were massive, certain individuals, but 100% that, yeah, if it wasn't for that, would I be in the place that I am now and sort of half running, or not half, but running young adults?
Just to clarify, you are fully running young adults.
Well, the Lord's helping me. But yeah, so where I am now,
theology.
like there's no chance that I would be in this position. Would I be even at church? Like, I guess those are sort of where I would potentially have been heading down if I wasn't really at that time.
Can we just double down on that? Like, kind of what led you to that disillusionment? Are you willing to share?
I had just gone through a relationship that wasn't very Christian. We were sleeping together, and it wasn't really a relationship that led me towards God. And then when I was challenged on that, knowing that it wasn't necessarily something that I ultimately had wanted and knew was good for me, and like growing up around church, you sort of know of like, these are the teachings that are apparently going to teach you the way to live a better life. And I sort of knew it wasn't something that I wanted. So when I was challenged on it, sort of ended up breaking it off eventually, and then sort of going through that struggle after of being like, well, is it even worth it? Why don't I just go through and just enjoy myself? What is all these rules that just sort of prevent me from, at the time, feeling I was like, I just rather do this. This is more fun. This is more enjoyable. And I didn't, I guess, see as much value in the church side of things at the time, for sure.
Yeah, wow. Thank you for sharing that. It's very vulnerable.
No worries.
What about you, Karen? You ever said no? Done?
No, because I think I properly became a believer when I was 15, and then I quickly volunteered at my local church, and then coming here at 17, quickly volunteered at my local church. So I think I just get bored sometimes. Like, it's like what you said at the start, like it becomes routine. And you go through ups and downs, but I've never honestly had a phase where I'm like, nah, this isn't for me. Yeah.
That's great. What is the church to you? What is it? What is the point of church?
What's the whole point of church? I think for an extrovert like me, I really relate like church to people. I think what keeps me going is, like the Christian answer would be Jesus, and like he told us to be in community and stuff, which is true. But my human side would say it's the people and like your friends, you volunteering, you serving, feeling like you're part of something bigger than yourself, and also knowing that, it's kind of what God would want you to do, or at least what God wanted me to do, like, serving and volunteering, all of that gives me joy. You become a blessing to others, and I think church is such a good platform to like just be with believers, but also be quote unquote useful.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's great, right? Yeah. What about you? What would you say point of church?
Point of church, I think there's definitely, I think I do agree with Karen. I feel like as I've got into my 20s, I think that's something that I've grown to love a lot more is the community and the people at church and having people around you who are just supporting you and helping you to grow, but then just also loving you and sort of just being, a place where you can feel safe and comfortable. And then just that opportunity of church being like ultimately to share the gospel and to grow and to teach, being depending on where you are in that journey of discovering through to walking through with Jesus for quite a part of your life, which is just being able to teach to all facets of that and to grow in that relationship with Jesus, but then also I guess there's a community and the people, which then allows you to practically start living that out in that sense, and then to then grow on outside, if you consider the church the building, outside the walls, but then towards being the church outside of it.
Tell me more about what you mean by that last statement.
Yeah, it was it was an assumed knowledge thing. So I guess being the church is, I guess we commonly are referring to the church. I guess there's two parts. Either one, the physical building, and church being the congregation of people. And I guess when you start looking at it a bit more biblically, the church is always the group of people rather than the building that they were meeting being known as the church. And then I guess it's that church outside the four walls is sort of being that love on action, being those teachings in action, being able to share the gospel, be Jesus' hands and feet on the earth. I guess it comes back to, I can't remember where Jesus is the head and we're the body, and we're all having our roles and responsibility, and that then flows out outside of your church walls and to the people around you with the love and the gifts that you've been blessed with, and being able to be a blessing to other people.
Dang. Fantastic.
I feel like I've jumped over a few questions in one.
I think it reminded me of like church. Church is kind of like the platform, like it has the resources and stuff, but then it also matters what you bring out of the physical building church, which is what Caleb was talking about. So when I was answering your question, I was thinking of the me being in the physical building church, being
place.
part of the community.
Yeah.
But then yes, it's also you're part of Jesus's body, but then you bless others from what you receive in the physical building church.
Yeah, absolutely.
That makes sense.
Yeah, I reckon it's a really interesting concept. Like, obviously in the modern world, we say, hey, we're going to church. And I know we can get narky on language and be like, well, you're not going to church, you're going to a gathering of believers. It's like, yeah, great, we understand that. At the end of the day, it's just easy to say, we go to church, we went to church, how was church, whatever, that's fine. But I do think, like, in terms of culture, I think it shifts things. When you understand that, like, oh no, for like 2,000 years, this has been called an assembly of believers, a group of people that is coming together to gather and then scatter. I think it does change your identity of mission. It changes your identity of like my grander purpose and role. Kind of what you would, you're part of something bigger than yourself. Of like, no, we're not just gathering together to like have a good time. We are gathering together with a purpose to accomplish what God has called us to accomplish, which is to see the whole world reconcile back to Him. I'm just wondering, like what's the kind of perspective around church right now in people your age, like early 20s, yo pros, like
what was that?
Yo pros, young professionals.
Oh.
I heard yo bros. I was like, what's a yo bro?
Yo bros.
I was like, oh, the youngins, the yo bros. What's the state of the church?
What's the vibe like towards church in your generation?
I think quite negative, I'd say, these days. I'm not sure if it's necessarily a generational thing, but I think as a culture, there is a lot more stigma associated with church, especially with, I guess, coming into the internet age where so much more is accessible, where there's been so much, I guess, distrust that the church has displayed at different points. So lots of people were associating that with like, church rapists and
which is terrible.
Pedophiles and stuff like that. And the writing's on the wall for some of that for sure. And we have to sort of bear that in itself. But I think as a whole, there's a whole lot of assumptions in that more negative context for a lot of it because of, select, I guess, individuals and situations that have become bigger than, I guess, what the church has done previously and what the church is, I guess, still trying to achieve. But I guess there's a lot more of a negative sense. And I guess it's also, I think it comes back to some of the feelings I was having at the time where it's sort of like, oh, why would I waste my time doing this church stuff where it feels like it's a limiter when I can go out and do all these better things and enjoy my 20s and go out and have lots of fun and do all these things that if I was a part of a church and trying to live a life for Jesus where I'm trying to move away from potentially and I guess miss out on those things. So I guess that's how, at least I see it. Do you see it different, Karen?
I can bring you the the point of view coming back from Indonesia because it was very interesting. 3.5
you left like mid-December and now it's like
early
late
December.
March. So you've been gone for about 4 months.
Yes, almost 4 months. So naturally, of course, I would look for a church. I kind of established I didn't want to go back to my old church when I arrived back to Jakarta. So I tried out this new church where mom goes and I really like it. I signed up for a small group, blah, blah, blah. And then it's so interesting because Jakarta is very populated. A lot of people are Muslims, but then Christianity is also pretty big. So then once you enter a church, and because that church is relatively new, they only started during COVID. So a lot of people, of course, were coming from other different churches. And then it's just so natural for them to be like, oh, so which church did you attend before? Oh, so what was your old church like? It's very normalized, if it makes sense. Like, it's not like you hang out with people here and then you go, oh, which church do you go to? But it was such a normal conversation for them. So it's like you kind of assume, oh, you went to church before, so which church did you go to?
Yeah, so this is I feel like I've been dishonest because I've been trying to lead into this this, okay? Because I frame this question as like I do think you're right in the attitude being negative. At the same time, you both have led a young adult ministry over the last 12 months, and now like because you had to like leave the country or whatever, Caleb's had to do it himself with all those people. You have led a young adult ministry that has actually grown. Now I find this fascinating because it hasn't grown from transfer growth. But it hasn't grown from like people being like, I'm done with my old church. I'm going to go to the Rocks Young Adults. You've got like people that are just genuinely exploring faith and been included in a community. I'm just wondering, like, can you talk me through like what that experience has been like? Because I tried to lead a young adult ministry when I was a young adult and it absolutely tanked. Like it just did not go anywhere. It just ended up being the young adults from church getting together again on a Wednesday night. Never kind of went anywhere. You guys have somehow built a culture that says, unchurched people, you are welcome here. And I just, what's that journey been like?
I think we would be dishonest with ourselves if we said that we've done something spectacularly different. I think a lot of it is built upon the people who had been there before us and had started, I guess, created an environment where we could come and grow in ourselves, but then creating that space. I think when we entered, there was a lot of already people who were there who were a lot more happy to support. And then as newer people have come through that space, that I guess it helped having some form of a culture already there, which is a culture of loving people, culture of just accepting people where they are at already. So when we took over 2 years ago, then sort of shifting that and I guess having the opportunity to have a few more new Christians and exploring Christians and people coming back to Christianity, walking the doors, has then allowed us to really start seeing not that we didn't see value in it, but putting so much more emphasis on that. And I think, at least for me, the conference that we all went to last year was so good in that, and just reshaping and re-bringing to the forefront of my mind of like, hey, look, we're here to disciple and equip people, and that's
Definitely.
those that are already have been coming, but we need to really make sure that we're addressing it and sort of being able to meet both ends of the spectrum
100%.
Yeah.
and including those people in it at the same time.
I think when I was in Perth for 6 years, it made me forget how different it is back home. So it's like so good. All of the skills I learned in, how our church is so intentional with wanting this to be a welcoming space for literally anyone. Whereas back home, that is not necessarily one of the big points maybe that they think about, because church is like part of the culture itself. So, yeah, it's really good having both the experiences of like being part of a place that you really have to figure out, okay, a lot of unchurched people are out there. How do we reach them? And then being in another place where church is culture, how do we then build disciples, like take that into, the workplace, your families, this and that. Sorry, I kind of forgot your question.
So we're having a
I
chat.
think on that, I think a lot of it does come from like, yes, our mission as a church is what I've already blanked on that one, but to inspire people to follow Jesus and to be a church that unchurched people want to engage and come to. I think because that flows on, what I think makes it so easy on us is that we're not really trying to not force that upon our young adults, but we're not trying to like really establish this as like a new thing where Karen is sort of saying like, oh, in other places it's not as common. Having that already there is like, well, we're trying to reinforce that at a young adult level and to the people that are coming. But I think something that's been so great to see over the last couple of years is seeing people buy in on that. And that I think has probably resulted in where the growth has probably come from. And it's a massive blessing from God. There's nothing that we've done particularly that has brought those people in. But because people buy into that product of, well, we want to inspire people to follow Jesus. We want to get new people to meet Jesus. Then people have brought friends. And then because people are are trying to be more intentional with, we're trying to engage these new Christians, have gone out of their way, made efforts, which has made it like a massive, like so much easier for us, because that means we're not the ones having to always do that and doesn't rely on us.
Yeah.
It's a full, everyone's involved, absolutely.
Yeah, I reckon it's a really interesting thing, right? Just because there's like not that it's like a battle, but I think there is kind of two sides of this coin of like, for us, we're like open door, no perfect people allowed. We want people to be able to meet and know Jesus here. There is like another side of the coin, which is like, no, we're going to focus only internal. We're going to equip, we're disciple, whatever. And then these people will go out and then evangelize and take people on. I think they're both trying to achieve the same thing, right? Which is like, we want to see people meet Jesus. And I think that sometimes, like, because we don't want to throw stones, right? Because at the end of the day, we're gathering together under one banner, which is Jesus.
Yeah.
We want to see him made famous in our lives, in our hearts. And then from that, we would overflow to the world around us. I guess my question would be, and this is controversial, I understand that. My question would be, which church would Jesus go to?
Are we naming churches? Or
No. Like in the sense of, if we were to make an
Rocks.
absolute caricature, okay? If we were to, because I know it's not this black and white, but if we were to go closed door policy, this is only for Christians, we're going to deeply disciple and equip you, or versus completely open door, no accountability, we're not going to correct anybody, we're not going to teach anybody, we're just only going to preach the gospel. Which one do you think Jesus would go to?
Yes, controversial. You can go first if you have your answer.
I want to say, I would say he will go to this second. So open door church, new people, spread the gospel focus. Because I then will counter that by saying that's what Jesus was doing in his ministry. He was just reaching the people. But then what he was also doing was picking his small group of people that he had, and he was like, okay, these are my people that I'm preparing, and then I'm going to do the ministry work across. And then when these guys are ready, these guys are then going to take the banner, and then they're going to ultimately take over and prepare the next people. So I guess if everyone has that mindset of, well, I'm here to reach as many people as I can, prepare these other couple people who are then going to do the same thing, reach as many people as they can, I would argue that makes more sense to me if I had to guess. But that might not be the right answer.
I don't think there is a right answer.
It's like a trick question.
Whoa, very good, Karen. Why is it a trick question?
I mean, if Jesus is like the embodiment of God, he was like a perfect human, then of course he can perfectly balance out the discipleship part, but also the reaching the lost part. And like, obviously we can't do that. But then I agree. I think he would go to number 2 first.
I reckon it was a trick question.
He's going to say 1 just to balance the scales.
No. I think he'd either go to neither or he'd go to both. Because church is a people. And I think we forget that, right? So if church is a people, what is the people? It's the body of Christ. It's the people that believe in Jesus. So therefore, Jesus is not drawing lines that goes, okay, well, you believe that, you believe that. Well, if I forget, you guys can't hang out at family dinner, so I'll have dinner with you guys on Friday and you guys on Saturday. It's like, no. I don't care about your denominational distinctions. You're either in Jesus or you're not in Jesus. That's kind of the only delineation. And I think sometimes we get a little bit caught up in this whole thing of like, what's the right way to do it? And it's like, man, at the end of the day, like, love God, love people. That's the 2 commandments. That's what you got to devote your life to. How the heck you do it, just do your best and put it before the Lord and just ask him to bless it. And I reckon he will.
And it's just about that intention, isn't it? Like you can... And everyone's just trying their best. In most cases, everyone's just trying their best to do what they think God is calling them to do, especially at churches. And everyone's trying to figure out what is the quote-unquote right way to do it. And as you say, there is no... We're all so imperfect and we're all going to do it wrong. And it's just sort of acknowledging that, well, we're just trying our best. We're checking it against the Bible. We're checking it against teachings. And then we're saying, yep, it aligns with God's will and what he says in the Bible. We're going to do this to the best of our abilities, and we'll just sort of leave it with God to do the rest of it, either bless it and grow it and be with it, or he won't. And then we sort of recheck it and readdress it later.
Yeah. And I reckon it's like, I mean, because we get a bit of heat for this sometimes, right? Of like, you know, maybe we don't disciple people deeply enough or whatever, because like, we have this kind of a capacity to think, well, there could be someone here that doesn't know Jesus yet. And so we need to, we're not like watering down the gospel. We're not diluting in any way. But I think we're just reticent of the fact that like, well, we want to be able to love you clearly. I just want to push back on that a little bit though, because I just feel like I'm still stuck. Like I've been following Jesus 14 years. I'm still stuck on the love your neighbor. Like I haven't got past that bit yet. I'm not even on to love my enemies yet. Do you know what I mean? I'm still struggling with the love the nice people in my life. Just wondering like what your guys' kind of experience has been, again, because you've grown up in church, of like, please be vulnerable here. Would you say you're any more loving than your non-Christian friends? If you take a real good inward look. Existential crisis on the pod right now. Oh gosh. Who am I?
Like I want to say slightly. Like of course there's growth.
Such a confident answer.
There's growth, right? I mean, hopefully God, tell me if I'm wrong. Especially at the Rocks, like after I arrived here, because of the different type of exposure of church and Jesus and the gospel that I got from the Rocks, it really helped me like nurture the parts of me that like my strengths, and I point that to be more like Jesus, and my weakness is like, oh, how do I get rid of this? Because Jesus wouldn't want that. And it challenges me a lot because sometimes I try to, like, I'm quite controlling of like, oh, I should be a certain way. And then I sometimes forget that, you know, Jesus is continuously going to work in us until the day we die.
Very good.
So like being flexible, being attentive to what Jesus wants. But I would say if you really are a follower of Christ, there should be like some kind of growth. If you reflect every year, am I slightly better? Hopefully. I think so. Slightly more like Jesus. But also depends on what's happening in your life, I guess. If life is all good, then, you know, you're just going to be happy, tolerant, and everything, which is what I sort of felt.
Definitely easier.
The last couple of years here. And then going back to Indo, it's like, whoa, 180. It's really hard to like be that version of me that I saw in 2024.
That's fascinating. And would you say that as part of being in such a healthy culture?
What healthy culture? Sorry.
Like here at
He's
church.
trying to say we're very healthy here at the Rocks.
I'm not sorry. I don't want this to sound like a Rocks promo. Okay, I love our church. Otherwise, I wouldn't work here. So like, but do you feel like you're missing some of that like community culture around you?
100%. Like really missing it back in Jakarta. So yes, community played a huge part. Feeling like, you know, you have your routine, you have your purpose, work is great, but then it's stagnant. Like I really felt that God pulling me out of this place to go home was what I needed. Is what I currently need at this point in time for growth. I actually verbally said, oh, I hope I don't lose the good parts of myself that I like built in Perth because I really love these parts of me. And then my friend was like, but you know, what if God's like wanting to change that for a season? I'm like, damn, you're right.
And that's happened now? Are you slowly getting ripped apart?
Yeah. Whoa. Yeah. It's fun though. Being a follower of Jesus, it's never boring.
It is never boring. That is true. That is very true. I find that fascinating with you being out of this environment and you're like, oh my gosh, now there's like open heart surgery. Because I had a similar experience when we went to Atlanta where I'm like, oh yeah, this is so clearly where God's called me. This is going to be the most fruitful year ever. And then like week one, it's like, all right, scalpels out, baby. It's like, I was not expecting this. That's funny. That's funny. Sorry, I don't know where we're up to. We're just
same.
We're fully off the rails here. Oh yeah, we talked about church as people, yeah? We talked about that a couple times now. Yep, good. Okay, let's look at this verse here from Hebrews 10. Let us not give up meeting together. Now, why I want to talk about this, okay? We'll call a spade a spade. All right, I love young adults. Okay, I was once a young adult. I'm now a middle-aged adult. Is 31 middle-aged? I don't know.
I guess contextually it depends.
Contextually. I mean, compared to y'all, I'm an old man. But young adults are a little bit transient, right? Little bit like, I'm not sure I'm going to fully commit to that. Why? How does that? No, I don't know. Does that work in church? I don't know.
I think it's a very, like, I guess before you even get to that point, I guess it sort of like diverts a little bit differently. But I think one thing that I've seen and now experience in young adults is you finally get to a point where you have to decide. It's up to you now.
Yeah.
Whereas up until this point, depending on your upbringing, your parents may or may not force you or guide you down a path. And a lot of the times when you start hitting your young adult ages, you start having to make the decisions, do you want to or do you not want to? Which is a very interesting age bracket to start sort of trying to work within. But I think, like, I'm sure we all were on the same wavelength as knowing that, yes, biblically it does say, and when you read Acts, when everyone's converted to Christianity, they're sort of they're breaking bread, going through the teachings, and they're meeting together. Like I heard someone say, like, there's no Christian in the New Testament pretty much that isn't in a community of believers. And I guess, unfortunately, a lot of us have started moving away from that a little bit more.
Why do you think that is?
The freedom that comes after high school.
Yeah, true. Yeah.
Honestly, I think that's the common denominator anywhere. It's like, wow, I can do stuff now. I can drive a car, can bring myself places. I get to work and not depend on my parents' income. Literally, that freedom like opens doors to so many things, which is why.
And yet, when you're 17, you choose to plant yourself in a local church. Why? Like, especially in your context, right? Because you're like literally in another country. Like, you could have done anything you wanted, but for whatever
and you
reason.
were quick as well. Like, you got here and then were like pretty quickly onto it.
A big part of it would again be how extroverted I am, and like I really just want to find friends, be part of community. It's like second nature to me, which is literally what happened as well when I arrived back home. But then like it was all worth it what I experienced, you know, at 15 when I said yes to Jesus and then started volunteering this and that. It's like the personal encounters just make sense. Yeah, sorry, it didn't make sense, but then it made sense. And then it naturally pushed me to want to continue doing that. Like, okay, I arrived in this new place. Like, how am I going to sustain myself? It's really difficult sustaining your own faith.
Very good.
Without community.
Yeah.
Without regularly, you know, having those check-ins with people and like attending Sunday services where you get to hear the pastor share something about, you know, the gospel, what Jesus would do, like, and reflecting. If you can just do life without all of that, it would just be very different. So it was kind of second nature because I knew it was so good for me. Jesus was good for me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And wanting to not be alone. I also find it fascinating that you have Jesus, God in a body, human flesh, chooses to be in community. Like, I find that fascinating. That the God of the universe says the best way for me to live is in a tight-knit community.
Yeah.
Like the 12 and then the whatever the next number is and then 144 or whatever the thing is. It's like there's layers to this community. But God himself said, hey, best for me if I'm in a community. I find that fascinating.
Yeah.
I mean, you guys know me pretty well. I feel like I've got a lot of opinions on church, very strong opinions. So that's why I'm trying not to share too strongly here because I feel like it's not the time or the place. I do want to ask you the same question though, Caleb. Why do you bother with church?
I think now, like at this point, it's a routine. But if you start really thinking about it, I think, like, I guess if I look at it from like my own selfish perspective, it's where I have this opportunity to, I guess, come and receive to an extent.
Yeah.
I guess it is that, well, it's this teaching, it's people who know more, and I guess that comes from, I guess, like a Sunday service, someone speaking and sharing, like talking through the Bible, explaining more practical application stuff. Like, that's fantastic for my life and encouragement for me and helping me to continue to try and grow as a person and sort of become more like Jesus. But I think then that it then extends beyond into the people around it. And I think that's a large proportion of it, which is like, if we're thinking about this church as a group of people, why do I find importance of it is I think I'll reverse it. I think they're important for me and essential for me in my growth and to challenge me as an individual, to call me to better things, to meet with me and to love me when I'm struggling, to be with me and just experiencing life and having those people around. So rather than church itself being just like, services, learn lots, but then being able to have this opportunity to receive from so many people, to grow in this relationship with Jesus, but then on the counter of that, being able to have this opportunity to share my gifts and use my gifts to it. And I guess when you're starting to remove yourself from church communities and trying to do it in yourself, because there is so much online content. You can receive content and you can learn, but being able to practically live that out with people, to bestow your gifts upon other people. People are missing out on your gifts and your blessing when you're not in the room, and vice versa. You're then missing out on the blessings and the knowledge and the wisdom and the love that you have from other people. And you sort of do miss out on a whole bunch of opportunities that you're going to get in, I guess, the church in itself and the community, rather than sort of like the building being the big miss out.
Yeah. I have a very strong feeling if you asked anyone that question, it wouldn't go too far from like people, like the answer.
Yeah.
We're made to be social beings. I feel like that's how God created us to be, which is why he said, love God, love others. It's such a big part of, being a Christ follower. So yeah, that would really affect how someone views church, like community, people, just being a social being.
Yeah.
And even just like interpretation, like I know that like I've listened to some stuff at different points and you come up with these perspectives on things and you think like, oh yeah, I've got it. I know this stuff. I'm right on this. And then it's only through people when I guess you start realizing you don't have it all sorted out. And if you don't have that community of people, your church, then you start missing out on those things. And I don't know, it's very easy to get caught up by yourself heading down a path where it wasn't your intention, but just through yourself and trying to figure things out for yourself, where you have so many people around you who are like, here's some of the answers. Here's what I've learned over my years as well.
Yeah.
I think it's also a deeper cry because we are made in the image of God, right? And God is Father, Son, Holy Spirit, all in one perpetual community for all eternity. So we as image bearers of God have a deep resonance in our soul level to be in that level of relational community and intimacy. And I think this is what I find fascinating about the early church. The early church, and we've only got a little bit of minute time, so I've got a time limit on this, so that's why I'm going to talk for a sec here. But I think what's fascinating about the early church is that the language is used all throughout Acts of like a forged brotherhood. And I know, don't worry about like gender and stuff like that. It's just this reality of like, these were people that would have gone to the trenches together and died for each other. Like they were so relationally intimate and dependent with each other that it's like, I would risk my life for you.
Yeah.
Why? Not because we have a mutual interest, not because we like Jesus, so we're going to get together. Not because, pastor's got a good word, so we'll listen to that. Not even because we're going to sing together, but because we are held together by the literal Holy Spirit of God. That one of the members of the Trinity is binding our souls to the creator of the universe. And as we come together in a collective group, this forged brotherhood, there is a tangible experience that is different to any other community on the planet, which I think is so deeply compelling. And I think people feel that when they walk into a healthy church because it feels like, oh, this is a place of love. That physical atmosphere is different because the Holy Spirit is so entwined with the believers and the believers are so entwined with each other. I think that's why church is extremely important, especially for young adults, because we're in this transient point of life where we're trying to work out who we are, where do we fit, what's the point, where do I fit in this larger story? And there is something in our souls that says you need a community that is going to be with you in the trenches.
Yeah.
And then we walk into a church and we experience a glimpse of that and we're like, oh, I don't understand what it is, but this is something that I know that I need. So even then when we walk away, we're like, oh, I've got to get back because I know that that's kind of what's missing. I don't know. What do you?
That's good.
Yeah, no, I agree. Like my friendships with the friends I grew up with at church and like even here at the Rocks, like even though I've left, is 100% like you said, it's like forged by the Holy Spirit. You can't really explain that to other people, but you can definitely feel it. It's just different. Like we don't have to be besties and like call every day, but there's just something different about the friendship, and you kind of don't know how to explain it to people, but makes you want to cry.
Good, great. Emotions are good.
Yeah.
Don't cry on the podcast,
won't.
please,
I won't.
Karen.
Do it, Karen.
No.
Do it.
Next question.
Next question.
There's your breakout clip. Karen just crying.
Come on, baby.
No.
Maybe we should do one reel that's just bullying Karen. No, we believe in love.
Amen.
Grace. Okay, can we talk about, I know we don't have much time, but body of Christ, unity, diversity. You know, like if everyone tries to be a hand, then the body doesn't function, whatever. Why does this need to be taught to us? Stay in your lane. Why do we need to be taught this?
I think like logically even like you've got gifts and abilities that have been blessed to you, and it's
By who?
like, by God, of course. Like they're God ordained like blessings and gifts, and He's specifically given you certain things that He hasn't given to other people. And I guess yes, unfortunately, there's different positions within the body of Christ and in the church where you're like, oh, that looks a bit nicer than what I'm doing. And even within the church, and we've put, I guess, more value to certain things over each other, but knowing in yourself that God has given you what He's given you for a reason, and He sees what you're doing just because you might not be on stage preaching every week. He sees what you're doing, and that's ultimately, I think, what it's for, in that there's so much difference within the church as individuals that we're all called to certain things, but with the sole purpose of loving God, loving other people within your sort of specific thing.
Yeah. I would say it's almost human nature for people to think they're right and their way is best. Because
I'd make a way better head than that guy.
And then it might be our natural tendency to feel that way and want other people to be more like us because we think we're right.
Very good.
Or, you know, like, oh, this is my strength. I feel like you should work on that because that's not yours. But then all of us are imperfect. And if Jesus was the perfect human, it would take all of us to even, you know, scratch His perfection, like to embody that in a church. Does that make sense?
Good, yeah.
So then you can't like have people try to be the same because you need all these different roles. And ultimately, with the right heart posture, like you're serving for an audience of one. That's how it'll work.
Sorry, can I just share this? This is a very fresh image for me. When you said that, I'm just reminded of the imagery that like the church is Christ's bride. This is wild. I haven't fully formed it, but the reality that it takes every single broken Christian on the planet forged together, and that is the only way in which we are good enough to be betrothed to Jesus. Isn't that's just a crazy thing to think about, that it takes whatever, I mean, how many Christians have there been? I don't know, 4 billion probably and all of us together, you know, like we still don't quite measure up.
Yeah.
That's just how good God is, how amazing He is. Dang it. Because you said something else and I was going to ask about that as well.
Images. Just thrown him. He's like, wow, that's good.
Yeah, I got to work on
really
that some
good.
more. I reckon there's something in there. That'll preach, baby.
Is that why?
Oh, I just remembered. Sorry.
No,
yes.
you go first.
No, you go.
I was going to say, is that why at end times, if we're thinking that
here we go.
everyone's
Okay.
Jesus is going to come back and everyone's going to finally realize, and then finally, then everyone will know the truth and therefore believe, and therefore finally we finish the picture. Or am I stretching a lot of things here?
I think you stretched a lot of things.
Okay.
I think
You lost me. I'm sorry.
we're deep in a theological grey area that I don't want to get into right
Fair
now.
enough.
So let's just wind it back a little bit.
What did you have to share?
I just wanted to come back to both of your kind of comment of like audience of one. I'm not on the stage preaching. And I know this is rich coming from me because now I am on the stage preaching. Okay.
You all are.
Yeah.
Oh.
You did some preaching, gal. Okay. So
I don't enjoy it though. Alistair does.
So when I was in Atlanta, I remember this so vividly. So we were doing a men's night. We called them fight nights. And it was our first one that we were going to do. And I just said, look, I'm available. Let me serve on the day. And it was on a Wednesday. Came into work early and I spent the whole day making things, building things, putting stuff together. Built all of these like mini golf courses, like for putting out in the car park, like hot as in Atlanta summer, like working. And I'm like, man, I am a good guy. Like, I have sacrificed for this. And like the leadership team kind of came out late afternoon, like this is close to 5 o'clock. And it's like the big dogs of passion. And I just remember like kind of off to the side, like watching this thing, and I can kind of hear the conversation. And I just remember Louis looking at the space in the car park that I'd spent the whole day on. And he's just like, this isn't right.
Or no.
This whole thing this is the language he said. He said, this whole thing needs to breathe. And in my heart, I just went, you are so wrong. You have not been in this car park in this summer heat all day. You have been in an air-conditioned office writing a sermon to go be on. Like, you know, I was like so angry in my heart of like, I've been so wronged. Anyway, God just served me some humble pie so quick. Because that night, like somebody put their faith in Jesus, right? And the next day in like a staff meeting or a team thing, I can't even remember what the context was, but basically somebody was just like, and so anybody that like helped with anything to do with last night, whether it was like pay an invoice or whether it was like pack up a box, like your fingerprints are on that person's story because you helped create the space. And I just remember being like, oh my gosh, I've totally missed the whole point. This whole time I thought this thing was about me. Look at all the work that I'm doing. Look at all the service I'm doing. And I'd forgotten the whole purpose of the whole thing, which was for God to be made famous in our time, in someone's heart. And an individual life was changed. Maybe because he was like, oh yeah, I'll come along if there's golf.
Yeah, the golf course is pretty good.
Who cares where the golf course is? Like at the end of the day, the guy met Jesus.
Yeah.
And, you know, like I just think it's something that sometimes, especially as young adults, I think we can get real self-righteous about like, being right and about doing it the right way. And like, hey, you need to appreciate me. You don't know what I'm, you know, I give so much or whatever it is, you know, like the reason I say all that is because how do you check your heart? Like, do you guys have like practices right now of checking your heart so that you make sure you actually are doing this thing for the audience of one, that you're not coming in going, this is the Karen show?
Karen as the host? Your Karen
or
show?
like the Caleb show, you know. So.
I definitely pray first.
Oh, that classic one.
Yeah.
Oh, commune with the
Boring.
Lord.
Yeah, I'm like, God, please help me. Make sure like I don't have selfish motives. And then occasionally try to check in with myself. And then sometimes I don't because I'm human. And then I get tired, like extremely tired. And I'm like, this is not a normal tired. I think I've been doing, you know, stuff that maybe was a bit extra. Maybe God didn't really ask me to do all of that. And I'm like, okay, maybe I should tone this down and just reflect again and talk to Jesus. So yeah, the continuous, like you have to continuously check in and pray.
Very good.
Because you are human and you're going to suck at not being selfish.
Yeah, 100%.
You just have to accept that
a
fact.
Natural thing.
Yeah. The natural intent, your natural gravitational swing will be towards selfishness, right?
Indeed.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I think it's the same for me. It's, do I do this specifically? I can't say I do, but like every couple of months or so, you sort of like, I'll just come across a message that sort of reiterates this, or we'll read something that reiterates that. It's sort of like, okay, what is the true purpose of what I'm doing here? This is so much more than beyond who I am and the things that I'm trying to achieve through this. I think also trying to place people around you that are going to help to hold you accountable to that, to remind you to that. Like you can do this and remind yourself, and God can put things on your heart at different points to remind yourself and to check yourself. but also having people around you, and especially like, I guess, it happens in all positions, doesn't happen up in higher up positions, but having people around you who are going to check you and call you out for when you're starting to say things where you're starting to lean down the path of, oh, these guys don't appreciate who I am. On that, though, I think we all need to do a better job at appreciating people.
Yeah.
I think
100%. Yeah.
Trying to go over the top with just appreciating people. But I think as individuals, I think we also have to, I guess, the audience of one, acknowledging that we might not get the acknowledgement here on earth from the people that we're after, but coming back to knowing, well, I'm doing this for God. God's going to ultimately acknowledge me when I get to heaven, and there's rewards installed in heaven for me because of the things that I'm doing, which then I guess comes back from a selfish ambition perspective in itself, but always sort of bringing things back to the root. But I think it's people around you, I think, is another big one.
Yeah.
Even just the simplicity of that prayer of God help me.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think it's great. Yeah, I think that's great. I agree 100%. Prayer, people. Yeah, very good. All right, we're way over. We're way over. Can we just talk about 2 misconceptions? I don't need church to follow Jesus. Is it a misconception?
Yes. Building, no, but people, yes. I don't think you can do things on your own.
Very good.
Like you can't do life on your own, period. And I guess we've sort of reiterated that a few times. But
on that though, do you know this is crazy? I came across this stat this week. Loneliness, okay, the concept of loneliness, being isolated, as a health, like what it does to your health, it is the same as drinking 6 standard drinks every single day, or smoking 15 cigarettes a day. That is what loneliness does to your health.
Kills you so much faster.
So that's just as a human level. That's before then you get the spiritual weight of, I am in allegiance with the King of the universe in a grand mission and an adventure to reconcile all of humanity back to himself. Oh yeah, I probably don't want to be. I don't want to be trying that one alone. You know, it's not Lord of the Rings, the adventure of Frodo. It's like the fellow. You know what I mean? Like it's the Fellowship of the Ring.
Yeah.
The Fellowship of the Ring.
Yeah.
That's cold. But I think also like even if that you oversimplify it and just like, oh, it's just about how much can I learn? Like even like going through like it's like trying to do your whole schooling by yourself.
Yeah, literally.
But with no one helping you. You've got one book and that's all you've got for your whole schooling. Like having people step into your life, having involvement, being able to practice this in this environment, being able to give back into environment, sharing those things with people. I think you just can't do that by yourself.
And I think also just like long term, let's be real, you're going to be in eternity with people.
Oh,
so
yeah.
like, and it's the same people that you're avoiding now. You know, so
run away for only so long.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
But can I ask you a question?
You can ask whatever you want.
Do you have to be at church to be a Christian? Like to, you know, like.
Well, what is a Christian? Like?
Sorry, like in the context of salvation.
Oh, no.
Does that depend on
salvation? Is faith alone, right? Well, that's super clear. I mean, it's not super clear. It's not super clear to some people, but faith alone. You put your faith in Jesus, whatever, your eternity's secured.
Yeah.
But if you want the richest life, like if you want to, like I just constantly come back to Jesus did more in 3 years than any other human being has done in an entire life. And I personally am interested in what goes into a life that accomplishes that much in 3 years. I'm interested in how that works. And I look at that life, and to me, it is drenched in community. It is drenched in relationship. And it is basically, I will leverage all of my life for relationship, even when it costs me. We were preaching on this Sunday, but like Jesus sets a table for the disciples in full knowledge that Judas is going to betray him.
Yeah.
Sits them down, and when he sits down at the table, doesn't go, so Judas, any plans to betray me over the next 24 hours? Anything you'd like to share with the group? No, he actually says, I have eagerly desired to eat this meal with you.
Yeah.
In the face of someone he knows is about to send him to be murdered. He says, I am eagerly desired to eat this meal with you. And I think that for me, I'm like, I don't know that I have that kind of level of community love. And I can't get that by myself.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So that's for me, I'm like, I think if you want to grow to be more like Jesus, I don't see how you can do it outside.
Yeah.
But, you know, you do you, baby. Yeah, you guys know my opinions on that. Church is just an institution, misconception, or real?
Well, I think we've sort of
We've kind of covered that,
Yeah.
right?
At the start?
depending on what your perception of church is.
Yes.
I think church has struggled with money at times, and people think money is a large.
Wait, sorry,
proportion
can
of
you
it.
show me the jump from institution to money?
Or isn't like institution like businessy? That's what
Institution is just like organized religion.
well then don't mind me. I'm thinking business.
People could actually be thinking of a lot of different things when you
It's true.
say
Yeah, so
institution.
institution would just be like, regulated, organized structure. So essentially like you would come, the way that this would come out is you would think of the attitude of like, oh, the church should fix that. As in the institution, the business, whatever it is, should fix that, rather than like, oh, the people of God should fix that.
But how do you separate the people from the institution?
This is the problem. Correct. It's very hard to do, right? Because at the end of the day, you get people and then they need to be organized. So did you see this in the early church, right? Where Peter basically is like, hey, there's a problem where the widows are not getting fed. And in the culture, that makes sense, right? Because widows can't have a job. So it's like, well, we need to feed them. We're going to love people. We should feed the widows. We don't have time to feed all the widows because we keep growing. So someone else has to feed the widows so that we can do our job, which is a ministry of the word and devotion to prayer. So that's the first kind of indication that like there has to be some kind of organizational structure that allows the work of the church to continue. I think the problem is when you then start only looking at the church as an organizational structure.
Yeah.
You then no longer see yourself as a family member in the larger picture, and you lose the intimacy of what the community is supposed to be.
And you can also get caught up in the fact of just trying to do the organizational side of things and miss the individual person who you're trying to reach as well.
Exactly, yeah.
You need everything. That's why we need everyone.
So we need you. Come to the church.
Oh my gosh.
Because we're not complete without you.
Oh,
yeah,
wow.
true.
All right, any final thoughts, team?
Love your church.
I personally love the local church. I really love it. I think it is the most incredible, phenomenal, compelling thing. And again, I know that's messy. I know it's got problems. I know that we've had like a rough couple of 1,000 years. I'm not suggesting in any way, shape or form that it's perfect.
Yeah.
Just the concept of it, that you can have a group of people that are going to come together and say, I'm going to sacrifice my life for God and for people. And I'm going to come together to celebrate that. And I'm not going to just do this as like a token thing. Like I'm actually going to invest my life in a group of people. I think that's amazing. For the hope of the world.
It's beautiful.
It is.
And churches make communities better. I heard some guy talking about it, and it's like statistically, lower crime rates, lower depression rates, all these things in just communities with a church present inside them. So I think people just have to realize, there's imperfect aspects, but there's like, I guess the saying is, don't throw the baby out with the water just because there's bad little just because there's bad aspects of it and there's imperfect people. Don't get rid of everything, because there's so much blessing for you and for the people around you.
Yeah.
And also, like, and I understand church hurt is real. I'm not suggesting any of that, but like, you might have also just gone to a bad church, like a bad group of believers that maybe had some theology wrong, or had some organization wrong, or had some personnel problems or whatever. You may have had a bad experience, but that's not every single one. And so you shouldn't reject all of them based on one experience.
Like Jesus is in every single church.
Yeah.
You'll always find a bit of Jesus everywhere.
That's right. Even the quote unquote bad ones that I just talked about. I apologize to them right now. The Lord is with you. Yeah. Dang.
Yes.
Good. See, that's a good rebuke, Karen. Good rebuke.
Calling him out.
Call me out.
Mean it like that.
Yeah.
But yeah.
But I think it is true, and I think it is still crazy to me that God can choose anything He wants to reveal Himself to the world.
Yeah.
And He chooses the local church, chooses weird people like you and me to go, hey, you all together singing songs, hearing the Bible taught, then taking that and going and enacting it in the community around you. That's the way that I want to do it.
Yeah.
That's humbling, man. That is humbling. The God of the universe says, yep, I'm going to use all you weird people.
Gets you emotional.
Come on now.
Who are we to go against that?
Yeah, what a beautiful gift.
Mm.
All right, anything else then, or is that?
Nope.
No.
Thank you for listening. Thank you for sharing. Thank you for the questions.
Great chat.
Mm.
I've enjoyed this one.
Good fun.
That is the end of episode 7, I think.
Mm.
Or episode 5. Can't remember. It's too many of these.
7.
Whatever. We'll see you next week.
Bye.